Assalamu alaikum. Mwah. Hope you're well. I just thought I should quickly make a video on what are the Islamic ways of approaching and dealing with a hardship, because as a Muslim that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will trial you in ways you think you would have never been trialed. Allah will do that to you. And it's not because he doesn't like you. It doesn't mean that he hates you. It doesn't even mean that he wishes this trial on you and this hardship. So you need to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not do anything to you except from good. Even if that meant that you fall sick. Even if that meant that you lose a loved one, even if that meant that you lost a job or didn't make it to your dream university or didn't get that degree or failed a test. See, we think that these things are hard, are bad, are evil maybe sometimes. We think it's such a bad thing to happen. Why would Allah do this to me? But we seem to forget that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already promised you. He promised you that you will be tested. And just because you said you believe, it doesn't mean you don't get tested. Matter of fact, because you said you believe, you'll be tested more. And some people might think that that concept is unfair. No, because you chose, me and you, chose to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to believe in his oneness, to believe that that Jannah is haqq and the nar is haqq, and that there is malaika, there's angels roaming around Allah's arsh, carrying Allah's arsh. We've said that we believe that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam was the final messenger. We said that Musa alayhi salam came, and we said that Musa alayhi salam, for him Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has split the Red Sea, and for him Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent the Torah. And we also believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to Musa directly, without a hijab, without a barrier. We said that we believe that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam was an illiterate man in the desert. Ya Habibi Ya Rasulullah. And a wahi came to him with ayats from the Quran, word for word, words from your Rabb. We said we believe in that. And if you say you believe in those things, you have to prove it. You have to prove it, because Islam itself is a deen not of words. You can say what you want, but it requires actions. Yes, we get rewarded for the intention. Yes, we will be questioned because of our intention. But also our intention becomes greater when we put action next to it. So we have to prove to ourselves before we prove to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because me and you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows if one of us is a hypocrite. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows if we are liars. He knows all of these things. So he doesn't have to test us if he didn't know, but it's for you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests you with hardship because he wants you to see. So you can also, so all your limbs on the day of reckoning can witness and testify whether you believe it or not. Do you see why you get tested? Because you couldn't have just been left alone and just created and lived a beautiful life. Because why would you want Jannah then? Why would you want something you have never, ever tried to earn? And what earns you Jannah is not your good days. It's not most of your good days. What is probably going to be heavy on the scales when you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to be those bad days where you are on your knees begging to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for you. So you need to understand that hardship just come, and you don't need to understand why. And you don't need to say to yourself, if only it was something else, or if only. You don't need to do that to yourself. Allah doesn't want that for yourself. Allah doesn't want you to burden yourself with beyond what you're capable of. See, when Allah sends you a trial, He knows you're capable. But the way you interact with it, the way you react to it, could be a means where you burden yourself way more than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intended for you to go through in the first place. You know? So if you're currently going through a hardship, thank God of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And truly understand, and the more sooner you understand that everything happens for a reason, and all the reasoning in the book of Allah, in the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is good, the more struggles, hardship, trials will become easier. Even if this trial is greater than what has passed. So what are the Islamic ways of approaching hardship? Like I said, know that you will be tested. Know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran. He said in Surah Al-Baqarah, and we surely test you with something of fear, hunger, loss of wealth and lives and fruits, but give good tidings to the patient. Be patient. Be patient. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran said, for your Lord, be patient. Be patient. Be patient, because you know Allah is going to reward you multiple, because you decided, you know what, I'm weak. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intended for me. Surely there's going to be an opening, and if I be patient for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the doors and everything is going to fix itself, right? So be patient for Allah. Know that Allah has not forsaken you. Know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not forgotten you. Know that when a trial comes to you, is you are more than capable, and if you weren't, Allah would have never said it to you. And you know how I know that? It's because Allah said it in the Quran, and you, like I said in the beginning, you said you believed in Allah, so you believe in this ayah. You believe in the ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I will never burden my servant or anybody beyond what they are capable of dealing with and coping with. So just know that if you chose patience, you chose the sooner way of getting relief. You chose to surrender to the one that is in control of everything. See, one of my favorite things to do when I go through a hardship is to tawbah. Seek maghfirah. Ask for forgiveness. If you ever find yourself like the world is colliding, your world is coming to a stop, you feel like the walls are coming in together, and you just feel like you are absolutely you're gasping for air. The next time that happens, especially for my anxious girlies and the girlies who suffer with any form of depression, anxiety, istighfar. Astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullahumma wa atubu ilayk. Subhanallahumma wa bihamdih. Constantly at the tip of your tongue. Seek forgiveness at the tip of your tongue. That will create an opening. That will ease your heart. That will create you a spot in Jannah. That will outblock and it will remove anything that's blocking your dua from being accepted. Istighfar. That will send upon you rain that will make you feel calmer, because it helps me whenever it's raining and I feel anxious. I feel like Allah heard me, and I just sit there and I realize that everything doesn't matter as long as Allah is with me. Istighfar opens you away from places you will never understand. The opening will come, the faraj, the opening, the solutions will come from places you're like, but I've looked there for months and it wasn't going to work, but it worked. It worked because you made istighfar. You made istighfar because you realized that you're an insan, you're a human being, and we commit sins and atrocities against ourselves. So we did istighfar, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran said that He will not punish anybody, whilst they are seeking forgiveness. So if you feel like your world is crumbling and you feel like sometimes Shaitan does this thing where it feels like Allah is punishing you, this is not a trial, this is Allah's punishment, run to istighfar. Run to istighfar, and don't tell me miracles are not happening for you because of istighfar. Because it does. There are people in this dunya that are addicted to istighfar. Addicted. They do it in the thousands daily. And you need to ask them how easy their life has become after doing istighfar. Like even the things they've never struggled with before happens in much more easier ways. Istighfar is your key. How else to deal with hardship is to make dua. It's your best and biggest tool. It's a tool that I would never trade for a world. Your words hold power. Your words travel to the seventh heaven. Your words travel to the arsh of Ar-Rahman, the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's how impeccably strong and powerful your words are. So make dua. And you know what? Even if you're making dua for the impossible, make it. Because even if it doesn't happen, even if that dua doesn't happen, and remember, nothing is impossible from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But even if it doesn't happen, can you imagine going on a day where everything is going to be counted, every good deed, every bad deed? Can you imagine asking for the impossibles and they just get whacked on the scales of goodness because dua is a form of worship? That itself should make you make dua for everything. Make dua to get out of bed. Make dua to make it to work in one piece. Make dua for everything. Make dua that you travel the world. Even, sometimes you get weird duas, like, weird thoughts. I'm like, I don't really, if it's good, just make it. Make it and see. You don't know unless you try. But you will never miss out on anything when you make dua. You won't miss out on anything. Matter of fact, Allah will beautify your life because of your duas. Don't restrict them, but make dua, and especially for the impossible. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves hearing from you. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that whoever wishes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to him during hardship and difficulties and grief, then let him supplicate when at ease. When your life is easy and you're not going through anything, go knock on Allah's door. Go knock on Allah's door. Make dua for Him to love you. Make dua for Him to get Jannah. Make dua that He preserves whatever barakah He has given to you. Make dua for Gaza, Palestine, Sudan, Congo. Make dua for everything. Even when your life is going well, that is exactly when you should make the most dua. Because also you feel less guilty that when things go wrong, you feel less guilty, and Shaitan wouldn't trick you saying, look, you only come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you need Him. Do you think He's going to listen to you? But don't listen to Shaitan. But when your life is easier, be in constant conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The fact that Allah loves hearing from you, it's such a shame to waste an opportunity. That the Lord of the universe loves hearing your voice. And you tell yourself, you know what, nah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one that is going to remember you when you have been 6 feet under for decades. Because your whole family are gone too. Your whole family has went to Ar-Rahman. And who is there else left for you? Let it be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you went to on a good day. And said, Ya Allah, look what happened. Ya Allah. Du'as can be a form of conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Start by conversating and then finishing off with a dua. Or start by a dua and then conversate. Yes, you will not hear Him physically respond to you, but you will feel it. If your heart is alive and awake, you will feel it. Another thing you should do is you need to be patient and wait for the relief. Did you know waiting for the relief is a form of worship? Well, if you didn't, here you go. Waiting for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to create an opening, and the opening will happen. It doesn't rain forever. It's a form of worship. See, in the hadith of Muslim 2999, wondrous is the affair of the believer. And I love this hadith. Wondrous is the affair of the believer, for there is good for him in every matter, and that is not the case with one except the believer. And if he is happy, then he thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, thus there is goodness in it for him. And if he is harmed, then he shows patience, and that thus there's goodness for him. Good or bad, be patient. Good or bad, be grateful. Good or bad, remind yourself who you're dealing with. You're dealing with the one that will create you an opening when there wasn't one. And that's simply put. And you know that. So remain patient. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for you. You know, and like I said, Allah loves hearing from you. So maybe this hardship was so he can hear your voice again, so you could go back to him again, so you can pray your salah on time again, so you could be better and do better this time round, you know. That leads me to the next point. And when you're dealing with hardship, is turn to Allah through salah. Salah, vital in surviving any form of hardship. See, in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us, and seek help through patience and prayer. Indeed, it is difficult except for the humbly submissive. Subhanallah. Allah himself is telling you that if you're going through something, if the world feels like it's ending for you, go to Allah in salah. Salah is so important because one of the positions that you're going to be in salah is the closest position you'll ever be in this dunya to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is in sujood. Your du'as in sujood, powerful things can happen. So don't forget the opportunity. Don't forget the tools Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you to make hardship easier, to make this journey in this dunya easier. You're only here for one reason, and one reason only, is to go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with goodness. That is it. You're not here to get a good job. You're not here to be whatever you think you need to be. You're here just to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and just that. So if Allah told you to use patience and salah combined together, there is a hikmah in it. There's a lesson for you in it, that if you truly want a hardship to go by with ease, only through salah and only through patience will that be possible. And finally, is comfort in Allah's word. Open the Quran. Let the Quran be your friend. Did you know that the Quran could actually become a physical individual for you in the grave if you befriended it in this dunya? Why lose on that opportunity? An opportunity where everybody left you, the Quran would stay with you because you befriended it in this dunya. Don't lose that opportunity. Don't lose that opportunity, because you can only imagine from witnessing people being buried is how lonely those graves are. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Ra'd said, those who believed and those whose hearts are assured by the remembrance of Allah, unquestionably by the remembrance of Allah, are the hearts assured. So use dua to remember Allah. Use dua to remember Allah and remember His words and remember His lessons for you. And also dhikr, constant remembrance of Allah. If you're anxious, constantly have Allah at the tip of your tongue and watch how your whole world changes. The ease you will feel, the they're just ready to surrender to anything Allah gives you, because you know that He is with you all time, listening, seeing. You know, the more you remember Allah, the more you realize that He is so close to you, that He loves you more than you would ever be able to even love Him. And I'm convinced in that, because there's so many things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed us to know about Him through the prophets, but especially Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that makes you realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intends goodness for us all the time. And if you do not go through a hardship and understand that, I feel really sorry for you, because it's Allah. It's Ar-Rahman. And He definitely loves you more than you could ever imagine. So if you're currently going through a hardship, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for you, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to shower you with rahmah that you have never experienced, and lightens your burden in ways you have never expected Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do so. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to elevate your status, elevate your iman because of these hardships. Barakallahu feek wa feeki. Salam. Bye. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, share it with your friends and family, and inshallah see you guys soon in another video.